gonna let the intro go one more time.
What's that?
I'm gonna let the intro go one more time.
Be sure to share on your page too. Be sure to share.
She said hit share. Hit share. And the person like that.
Oh, where at?
Go to the website.
Hello, Facebook and viewers all over, including YouTube. We got YouTube now, y'all. This is the Gray Area Media, and this is your boy Ray E.
This is your boy P. Wills. What's happening?
And this is your grown woman, Ebony.
Oh, wait a minute.
Grown woman.
Just thought about saying your girl. No, I'm kidding. This is your girl, Ebony. We're all girls inside.
This is your grown woman.
Ebony,
Grown.
where did this
Grown.
grown woman thing come from?
I just thought about it.
I mean,
I'm
does someone
grown.
make you feel like a child man or something?
No, I was just thinking. I'm
You
grown.
know what I'm saying? I mean, where did grown woman come from?
It's all good. We're gonna respect
I
that.
said
Introduce
girl.
yourselves,
I
right?
went back and said girl. I'm a
Introduce
girl.
yourselves as the grown man then.
No.
This is the grown man.
Listen.
Grown man Cliff.
Y'all, we have a very special guest for y'all today. We are speaking on insurance. The need for insurance is high, y'all. We got home insurance, health insurance, home insurance, auto insurance,
Life.
business insurance, and most of all, life insurance.
Yep.
So we're speaking with CJI agency today.
No more GoFundMe pages.
Yes, let's get rid of the GoFundMe pages. They're running rampant. My man Clausen is in the building.
Hello, everyone. Pleasure to be here on the Gray Area Media Show.
Good to have
Thank you,
you.
man, for coming,
Good to have
buddy. Appreciate
And my
it.
man Willie X.
Yes.
Thank you all for having us here. It's an honor and a privilege to be here. We're excited to share some information with you all today.
Absolutely, absolutely. The big thing is we don't see past our own situations. Like, we live life and we just roll with it, and we don't understand that at any given moment that could end.
Anything can happen.
You know, anything could happen at any given time, and we have to be more proactive. Can you guys give us a glimpse into some of the reasons why we need to take having insurance in all aspects of life more seriously?
Number one, insurance by definition is the transfer of risk. No matter what we do inside of society, we are all faced with some form of risk. Unfortunately, we place the value of that risk a lot of times in the wrong places.
Right.
And what I mean by that is we pay for the things that we don't necessarily need for what we want, and we put our lives on the back burner when we all know that we're going to pass away at some point in time.
Right.
So
Very true.
so insurance is a product that is used to help prepare for that moment, because we know we're going to leave our families behind,
Right.
and they're going to be dependent upon the decisions that we made or the decisions that we didn't make, and insurance is a great tool to help with that.
Absolutely.
Absolutely what Willie said. It is just that. You want to protect the things that you need to have or that your family needs to have to survive, which also includes your income. So if
Right.
something happens to you and your family will lose that income, especially if you're the income provider, that insurance can help cover that gap for your family.
Okay.
It can also help pay for college for the kids, allow your spouse to not have to go get a second job or a third job to make up that lost income. So
Mhm.
insurance is designed to cover your bases if something bad were done.
Yes, sir.
This stuff is passed down to the next person living, ain't it?
Absolutely, yeah.
You know, somebody's gonna have to figure out how to pay for that funeral. You know, how to pay these bills off that, you know, you done left this nice luxurious house, which you
Right.
put so much money into, these cars, you know, all these different things that we tend to cherish while we're living. We have no disregard for and understanding that we can't take that with us.
Mhm.
You know
That
what
was
I'm
gonna be
saying?
one of my questions. How does that work when you have bills? I remember my grandmother passing, and my mother had to get an estate account, you know, all that kind of stuff. And can you explain to us how that works in regards to, like Ray said, leaving behind debt and things like that, and what insurance takes up care of first before they handle everything else that you need?
Okay, so yes, your debt actually stays with the estate. So just because the person passed doesn't mean the lenders will forgive the debt. If the person passes with assets, then
Mm-hmm.
those assets are at risk to the lenders.
Mm.
They can still come after the person or their assets to collect that debt. So
Okay.
insurance can help with that. So when you have an insurance evaluation, especially for life insurance,
Mhm.
you want to make sure you consider that debt in the total amount of face value of that policy that you need to make sure you not only cover the debt,
Mhm.
but you have that excess left over for your family as well.
So who gets paid first? Your debts?
Actually, it depends on how your estate is structured. So
Oh, okay.
most of the time, you want to, of course, take care of your funeral, so that's not a burden on
Mhm.
your family. It's nice
Does that
if you
include signing a will or something? How does that
No,
all
no, the
work?
will is separate, isn't it?
Yeah, how does that all work?
or that has value where you're using it to transfer wealth to the next generation and not leave
Mhm.
any burden to your children to
Mhm.
carry on, but we know that that sometimes doesn't happen. We kind of have to plan with a sense of
Insurance policy.
value.
Mm-hmm.
Now, there are some life insurance, something sudden, then that policy will actually double in value. The insurance industry is pretty, your insurance agent can put in there that would be a double indemnity that will actually double the face amount.
Wow, okay. So is there a minimum that you recommend for a person to have, you know, under their,
Look at the person and sit down with you and look at your debt, your assets, and then also what you want to accomplish.
okay.
And what the purpose of that policy is for. So if you're younger, that will cover you for a certain period of time until your kids are older and they're hopefully on their own. So that would be considered a term insurance policy.
Nice.
And it's not expensive.
Yeah.
I mean, this is like pennies to a dollar. I remember when I was when I started working, like, and started paying attention to my insurance benefits or whatnot, and when it got to the life and after death, what is it, life and then AD, and then this, I'm like, I don't need that. I don't even know what that is. You know, like, I'm used to looking at stuff like, I don't even know what this is. So why I'm giving up 30 cents every 2 weeks for this? You know what I'm saying?
Yes, sir.
Which is nothing. You know what I'm saying? You
Right.
think about it, you're probably paying less than $10 a year to hold some life insurance.
Yeah, something.
You
yeah.
know, and it's not. We different. You know, why
Yeah.
is that? Why did?
I think sometimes life gets in the way. You have other bills, so we think, oh, what's the odds of this happening to me?
Right.
So sometimes with sometimes our family's future
Yeah.
with that, because the younger you are, of course, the cheaper it is.
Right.
So, yeah.
Right. And why does it go up with age? Is because it's more of a liability.
Yeah, because the older you get, of course, the more healthy you're prepared. But as you get older,
To be on there.
Yes.
You know, and could you go over that and how important that is? That people don't even realize. Like,
$10,000. He was left a $10,000 life insurance to get where he's at today. It's from the people that I shared it with, because most of us, like we were just discussing, we don't understand the value of it. And I think another reason why we don't necessarily look at life insurance is because we're afraid of the cost. We think it's going to be extremely expensive.
right.
Because you know, it's not a conversation that's had.
Afraid of death too.
Yes,
Afraid of
sir.
death too. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Right. Okay, so go and branching off of that, can y'all give the viewers good reasons, not only that, but to show how it can become generational wealth as well?
Yeah,
Because
absolutely.
I was
Yeah.
you
thinking
think
about
about
that
it,
question.
like some of these policies can be $1 million, You know,
So
if
more than
someone
that,
passes away.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and can you guys speak on how that is beneficial to generations?
Absolutely. I can do life.
Mm-hmm.
One way to control that is going to receive upon your death. So if you want to make your kids a millionaire, you can buy $1 million policy.
Mm-hmm.
And the insurance is a mechanism for doing that. So the greatest vehicles besides a business to transfer wealth to your family. Most people will work a job and think, hey, you know, I'm working a job, I'm making a decent income, but I haven't found anyone that can leave their kid a job. And building assets and having the proper insurance to protect your assets and to protect your income is a way to do that and transfer that wealth.
Wow. Something I've been noticing, and this is I'm gonna let y'all look in a peek of my personal things that I do. When someone passes away, I usually see a news story, right? You know, whether it's a news story, somebody, oh, you know, so and so, and they tag the person. This thing I do is I go to their page. I don't know why I do that. Maybe it was.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, and two, like, what happened to them? You know what I'm saying? Those are kind of the things that, and then it gives me a glimpse into how this person prior to, which is why y'all should, that's the way you're going to go out. You know what I'm saying? This is the last, at the end of the day, nobody can get a peek into your life, but this way they can, which is unfortunate, but that's the last thing that they know about you, your last post. So, and what I find out is, one, they're holding money, doing all this crazy stuff. I feel less, and I hate to say this, but I feel less sorry for people who are holding guns and cash, and you be like, these pages is a GoFundMe account.
Yes.
You know, somebody tagging them.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? That's the first thing that I say. I'm like, dang, they must didn't have life insurance. Not that GoFundMe is a bad thing. We can prevent that.
Right.
Yes.
You know, we can prevent that easily by getting some life insurance to have each of those. You know, as much as we fight against it. Well, I don't think there's a way around it. If you got a home, if you're owning a home, you have to have it.
Yeah,
I mean,
you have
they
to have
basically
it, yeah.
force it upon you. But explain the difference between the three and why people need them. Sure.
Which means that not only are they not transferring wealth to their family, but they're leaving their family a burden to put them in the ground.
Right. Right.
And that's a sad scenario.
Right.
And we see that a lot even within our agency because we sell policies that will pay for the funeral. And you can lock in the cost, and that policy will actually gain value. So, and when we write
know that.
yes, the policy will actually gain value. Yes, it will. So, we could write a policy today that's maybe $4,000, and let's say that person lives another 50, 60 years, and they could have, you know, $10, $20, $30,000 in that policy. And the thing actually goes into the estate and can be transferred to the family. So that's one way that we see. Normally, it's a lot of older people that do that because as young people, we don't think we're going to die, right? It's hard to sell that policy. So we have several types of life insurance. So that's a pre-need to pay for your funeral. We have term insurance, which is the least expensive of all insurance, and it's pure insurance. That means that it's for a specified period of time. If you die during that period of time, that insurance policy is going to pay out the face value. Those are the policies that you see that are pennies a day.
So the insurance you get with your company that they call life and death, and there's multiple different ones. I really should be paying attention to what they are. I got off something about the funeral costs or whatever.
Right.
Insurance for that? Like, is that something that's
you can't
explain? Okay.
Your chances of getting insurance as far as getting one of these larger policies is slim and none.
Okay.
They're taking on.
Okay.
So that's an actuary science, and they're pretty good at calculating your time of death based off how your body is. That's why they want to do a physical exam to see. But when you work for an employer, you can get that, and most of those are yearly policies for yourself.
Like supplemental after.
Absolutely. So term helps with that, and then we also have what they call forever. Amassing interest.
You know that either.
And that the whole life you can cash out, right?
Yes, you can. You can borrow against it. It does gain in value.
Which one costs more?
The whole life.
The whole life.
The whole life.
You can cash.
What's the typical ballpark? Because I'm one of them people, like, I like to get stuff out of the way. If I wanted to cover
height, weight, and believe it or not, your record.
Oh, okay.
Drivers.
You can't get a whole life insurance.
Your criminal arrest record can be taken into consideration.
Wow, okay.
Man.
If you have a really tough underwriter, maybe they'll look at your Facebook page and see that, so what your point was taken in that they
Your children, going back to the generational wealth,
yes.
leaving your children money behind, should you leave whole life or term?
It absolutely doesn't matter. They're both money at the end. It's just the whole life is designed to last universal life products.
Okay.
Some of them are guaranteed for a lifetime also for up to a specified time. And normally those give you a little better rate than whole life does.
Okay. We had another question. I don't know
Sure.
who this lady, Reverend. Thank you, Reverend Emmanuel. Wanted to know how can seniors over 70 find life policies, or is that even possible?
It is absolutely possible.
Okay.
You can contact CJI agency, of course, at our number 307-926-5541. Gotta put my plug in there.
Absolutely. Put the website in the comment section too.
Yes, and then we have Jason that will also be able to help if you dial that number to get life insurance. Brother Willie here is licensed in life, and so am I. We actually go out and we find the best insurance company that'll take someone that's a cancer survivor. So certain insurance companies for our customers. We believe this is part of our mission to serve our community,
Absolutely.
to make sure that we look out that fits our community, and that's where we place our customers at.
That's awesome. Thank God for that.
Yeah.
My
Absolutely.
goodness. Oh my goodness.
Learned a lot.
Yeah.
There's so much stuff that I'm so glad you guys are here because there's so much stuff that even I didn't know.
Yeah.
And I've been, been having life insurance for a long time. And there's just so many different elements and things that we don't think about in insurance.
I'll talk about home. Willie is an auto expert.
Okay.
So I'll kind of get into the homeowners.
Sure.
You want
Yeah, so auto insurance, in terms of protecting your assets, one of the first things, castles. And the concept, pretty much what it means is that you want to make sure that you fill the gaps in your insurance, in your future planning and things that you want to do. One of the gaps, if you don't have auto insurance, if you get involved in an auto accident, without that insurance, you lose some of the things that you worked your whole life to establish. So with auto insurance, there's what they call limits of liability, which is your coverage limits. And to my surprise, most people aren't familiar with this. Most people, when you ask them if they have auto insurance, they say, yes, I have insurance.
Let us know what's up.
So you have what's called, you have state minimum limits, which is legal insurance to drive on the road.
Okay.
And in the state, which is represents the total coverage insurance, it falls in those three categories. It costs too much more, but it 50, 100, it covers you for what you pay. Another and underinsured, you're still covered under your own policy, 5, 50, 25, and it's, so auto, if it's a nice one.
Absolutely.
If you okay, let's say if you have a vehicle, right, that's paid off.
Yes, sir.
Okay, should you have full coverage or should you just have liability? Because I heard, oh man, your car is paid off, just get liability.
It depends. It depends. And the reason why I say that, if you're driving a 1970 Ford truck that's worth $500 at the current status that it's at, the difference in insurance costs may outweigh the amount that the vehicle is worth to have insurance, or you're at fault in the accident. I push the full coverage. Full coverage is what's pushed. But there are some instances, if you're planning on buying another car, we have the luxury of being able to give you a 6-month policy, and then change that as you continue to search for insurance, and and
It could be cheaper. Explain why that is.
it's like a discount,
Okay.
So insurance is a product. So
2 for 1.
yeah,
Insurance
is a
Man,
product.
if I'd have knew I could get it down to 100, I'd have got 2 cars a long time ago.
July.
Yeah.
Okay, so I still have my old Impala, but my Impala is parked outside of my house.
Okay.
Haven't driven it since July, but it's still fully, covered.
Yes.
So I mean, in that situation, do you think I should just get liability on it?
I'm gonna lean on Brother Cliff for this one right here.
All right, I'll answer that. So it depends on if something happens to that car, if you can afford to replace it yourself. That's what it really boils down to, is that If you can't afford to pay for the car, if it's damaged to the point where you can't drive it, then insurance will do that for you. And if it's some of the old school Impala, I don't know what kind of Impala it is,
It's
but
an
they're worth a
04.
lot, you know.
04, man. A lot of memories, man.
Junkyard.
Damn junkyard.
So it is up to that, and it is on an individual basis that that if you need this car to get back and forth to work, and you want to insure it. If it's something that you plate,
I really may consider that, just getting like the minimum on that car.
This reminds me of Chris. I don't know if you remember the Chris Rock special when he said insurance. He said insurance. I think he was complaining about paying insurance, and he was like, "It's in case something happens," that kind of payment. But based on your conversation, it's like we don't look at insurance like you said. It's a protection of assets.
Yeah.
So when you're talking about the auto insurance, I think most of us think about auto insurance as like in case I get in an accident. But we don't think about those other things that can happen to your vehicle, theft, anything, any other thing. And so I think it's a good discussion to think about assets. We're assets.
yes.
So we should be insured. Our children are assets.
Right.
We should have coverage so that they don't have to pay our bills,
Yeah.
And then what other things that we don't think about when it comes to auto insurance that we should really think about besides just in case accident?
Right.
Liability, and I refused to sell her the state minimum. I looked at her assets.
Mm-hmm.
I knew what she had, and she says, I've been driving for 40 years.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really need
Right.
anything with this. If the car gets damaged,
Mm-hmm.
I'm good.
Mm-hmm.
I said, well, I'm not really concerned about the car. I'm concerned about your
Yeah.
assets.
Right.
And she's on my Facebook page. She gave a great testimonial. About a month after I sold her the policy with the higher liability limits, she actually hit someone and killed them.
Oh, my God.
man.
And so
Wow.
she has been one of the biggest advocates for our insurance company
Wow.
because it was traumatic. I called from her. She said, that was me.
Oh.
Now,
Mm-hmm.
holding on to you that you killed someone,
Mm-hmm.
chances are you may lose your job also.
Let's let everybody know
That's-
what this insurance is in case they want to come and get it.
That's the liability side that Willie was talking about.
Okay.
So the average claim in Indiana, if you hit someone and they go to the hospital, is over $300,000.
Mm.
If you have 2550 state minimum, which is the legal, the minimum limit that you can drive in the state of Indiana,
Right.
that you have to show financial responsibility,
Mm-hmm.
that's not nearly enough.
Mhm.
So once that liability is exhausted, the rest of the money has to come from you. That's where the lawsuits
Wow.
happen. That's where they garnish your wages.
Right.
Sometimes for the rest of your life. It depends on how large that claim is. You hit someone, you hurt a kid, you can't write a check big enough.
Yeah.
So sometimes we have to sell depending on what you have to protect.
Mm-hmm.
If you have the asset to protect, then you can say this.
Wow.
So actually in my head before I said the question.
Depends on the type of policy you pay for your time on your insurance policy.
Gap, because they cheap buyer when it came to the car. I don't believe in car. I noticed that they were really pushing for that gap insurance.
Mm-hmm.
And you broke that down a little bit earlier as like gap insurance in most cases covers what the insurance doesn't cover, right? Is that the time that it leaves a lot to the time that you get insurance?
And what you owe on it.
Okay.
So if you buy a car and let's say you insure it and the car is worth $20,000, but you have a loan car for $25,000.
Mm-hmm. What you think it is.
Mm-hmm.
Insurance,
Yeah,
y'all.
yes. Redford, man, he just, over his signing paperwork.
Right.
Gap.
My girl, man, bless her heart. She is the one that catches everything. We go to, I was like, man, this ink is expensive. It was like $70.
Yeah.
But on the receipt it said $2. So I'm bad at that. A flaw of mine is that I'll go buy something and I'll pay exactly what they tell me. All these people, sponsors and stuff, calling me, trying to dupe me.
Well, I tell you what, since this is the fair market value for that product.
Oh wow!
Wow. Oh man, break that down.
That's a nugget.
Yes.
Break that down.
That's a nugget right there, y'all.
Say that again, because
Yes,
that
give
just
an
went over my
example
head.
of that.
Yeah.
I don't know what.
So you went in and you negotiated a car. When you went to fill out your paper, you got a car for
Okay, that makes sense too.
more for that car than what it's really
Yeah,
worth.
like
Right.
$250 a week on a 1992 Buick Mercedes.
Yeah, you need gap insurance for that.
I'll be mad. I'll be like, hey, yo, man, where'd you get that car from?
And then want to put a tracker on it.
Yeah.
Why you gonna put a
The
tracker on it?
a 1992 old
250
Buick,
a
yeah.
And that's an
Buick
important
Mercedes. Oh, Mercedes.
That's an important point because insurance companies are all situations like that, and if that is,
Yeah. Look, man, they ripped out so many people. I don't know how many people I've heard. Yo, man, I got this car, man, from JD Byron, dog. I'm back on the road, Pat. Oh, yeah, how much you pay? Hey, man, I'm paying $200, man, a week. I'm like, dude, that's $800 a month.
You be like, what?
How much you paying on that? Oh, man, I'm paying like $200 a week. $200 a week. Man, that's
Something that I see very common amongst my generation of millennials, just for the fact that we have a newer model car,
Yeah.
but our insurance is about $300 or $400 because we have a newer. And when you nice, but you are paying a lot of money.
Absolutely.
And in our office, that kind of goes back to the life insurance. Life insurance is really financial planning.
Right.
So that's why we take a consultative sales approach, where we sit down and we try to educate each person that we insure.
The whole life.
The
What
whole
do you got
life.
going on in your life?
The whole life,
I love
and your goals and the things that you're shooting for.
I love that.
Because we try to make a relationship.
Anytime they have changes in their life, they'll be back
yeah.
with you all.
Absolutely.
And
Somebody
they'll
that trust.
and they'll refer
Service.
people.
because as insurance agents, the risk with the insurance company, so they mitigate how to fire someone in risk. And so as Willie was saying, with these new cars, one of the greatest mortgaging cars for
Yes, the buy here, pay here is the biggest scam
Oh,
on
my
earth.
goodness.
Away
I've
from
been a
Chase
victim.
Byron.
Because they care
I've been
nothing
a
about
victim.
what you make.
Nope.
They just want to get you to a bank that will take you.
Sorry,
first of
JD
all.
Byron.
Right.
And the bank that's going to take you don't care nothing about
Interest
you.
rate be 89%.
It's a must need. I mean, you cannot walk through life not giving a dang about life and nothing.
Yes, sir.
We see it all the time. We talked about the GoFundMe pages earlier. The parents can,
Right.
but young people can't do anything about themselves, which is why the parents need to be more proactive in regards to that. It's not that much. I have all my children on my pocket.
Yes, sir.
Why do we look at like life insurance like I don't want nobody to have money when I leave? I'm taking it with me.
You take it
I'm not putting no beneficiaries down. I'm not saving it for no one. Tell us why that is a bad logic.
And also, I'm sorry, before you say that, and also understanding that you should when you have life changes, because I will admit that
Changes,
I used to work for a company that and it was actually for the state of Indiana that paid out, basically the company that pays all the service workers, teachers, everybody, under that whole umbrella. Perf and turf. And we literally had new wives call about insurance policies that their husbands never changed from the old wife. Or the old wife she was already collecting, getting checks every month. Ex-wife. And the new wife never knew about it because husband never changed his policy. So, yeah.
That's interesting.
Ex-wife is, and there's nothing she could do about it. Her name is on there that you can expound on that.
Whenever you have a life event changes, the birth of a child, a marriage, a divorce, you take on a new business, you set up a business, you need to talk to several people, an accountant, an attorney, and your insurance agent.
Oh, wow, okay.
Insurance agent can do a lot for you. Most attorneys with maybe your partner's ex-wife. Because whoever has the rights to that estate will have whatever percentage of that business that person has. So
they may not manage it the same.
they may not manage it, and you may not want to be in business with them.
Right.
So that insurance policy will actually help buy them out of the business, give them their money, and then you can continue with the business.
Okay.
And what is that called again,
A
Cliff?
buy and sell agreement.
Buy and sell agreement. Okay.
And also, you brought up credit. Insurance can actually credit score you, give you a higher rate if your credit is bad.
Oh, wow, nice.
Yes. So especially if you're setting up
Well,
a
I mean,
business.
that's not nice, I'm saying.
It's not. Some insurance policies, like bonds, if you're going to do business and you're getting a bond, will deny you because of your credit. because they don't consider you credit worthy to write that bond. So credit is important to keep it up.
Absolutely. I mean, I didn't learn about credit until I got in my 30s. It's very unfortunate. I don't know how I got through life.
You and me both, Ray.
I really don't. I look at the stuff and I'm like, man, I was just getting the short end of the stick on
JD
everything.
Byrider, all those.
I mean, the car I was paying. I mean, the car was 10 years old. I was paying $250 a month. Oh my goodness! I swear, I said this on the show before.
A month or a week?
A month. No, see, there you go. Like,
nah, I mean, I know this person though. No, man, listen, this person, man, was paying like $225 a week.
no, that can't be true.
Bro.
That can't be true.
No, it is true.
How do you
I'm
pay
not gonna call him out.
$1,000? How you pay $1,000 a month for a car?
They went to JD Byrider. No, I mean, it is. Listen, they were paying like $225 per week. That was like a
But I think
It's like a rent-a-center car.
But I think the maximum for the state of Indiana is 25%, right?
Interest.
In interest. So I don't know
Somebody's
that.
pocketing some change.
Yeah,
man,
that's.
listen.
I think they were cutting off
If
about.
you are watching this show, can you reveal yourself? Because last thing I want is anybody to think I'm that I'm. And you comment on this show, often. I'm telling you, I mean, it was like two. I mean,
how can you live?
it was two. Hey, listen, man. I was like, man, you pay that much a week? Like he had to pay it every week. Like he had to take it up there every week.
Were they?
We'll get them
Okay.
One of our viewers,
CJI agency. Look at us.
please.
All day.
I think you pronounce. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think it's Shanae Lene. She said she wanted to know how often should you shop and research insurance premiums. She heard that you should do it once a year, but if you find out you have a better rate, how often should you switch?
That's a great question. You should look at your policy once a year with your insurance agent. As independent agents, we have options. So we write with 100 different companies. So we can actually shop that rate. If you're with a company where they can only write one product, they're captive to that company.
So they were a contract with that company.
They
can
only sell that company product. They're locked into to basically try to convince you to stay there, or they have to decrease your coverage in some way to make that payment difference. Whereas we can actually shop with a different company and switch you with a different carrier that has more favorable rates. And believe it or not, there are carriers that like certain risk. There are certain carriers that will take youthful drivers. There's some carriers that like older drivers.
Right.
So we match the person with the carrier that fits them the best. And I didn't forget about your question with the people that with the kids and they don't care. I want to make sure. I've seen people like that, and that's a hard conversation to have with them about where he's at and why we are so many generations behind our kids.
Absolutely.
Take care and think about what they have to do. So
right.
And not only that, with your community, because some of those assets can be left to non-for-profits. I've seen people that have taken insurance policies out to help pay for schools, endowments, to help pay for life insurance policy, and you just transfer, you put the beneficiary as the school or the church or the organization that you want to leave the money to.
Name some things that can be covered with life insurance, and name some things that life insurance doesn't cover, like somebody that commits suicide. Stuff like that.
That's a good
Suicide
question.
is covered on most policies as long as it's after a certain period of time. So there's a 2-year contestable period in life insurance. And basically, if it's something that you didn't disclose or you kill yourself in your application before that 2 year, you disclosed it and they took the risk, and it's outside of the contestable period, they have to pay. Checking that. When they ask for your medical records, they're going to look at what kind of medical.
Why do people like fake their deaths?
Money.
Yeah. You know, I mean, people been a little bit. What movie man was that? At a time with Denzel. I mean, that's basically what they were trying to do. You know, the dude faked his death, and I mean that's crazy. But some people do that though.
It happens all the time. I see it in the news. Like family members kill each other over to get a life policy. You know, insurance policy, and it's unfortunate because for some reason 2 weeks prior the insurance policy was raised.
Right.
You know, there's always some red flag.
Like, you know, the dude just dies, and then the wife cashes out, and then she's just splurging.
Fur coats and
Yeah,
red bottoms.
yeah.
So be careful who you put as a beneficiary.
Right.
That's
Know
right.
your people.
Right. But going back to Ray's question, Cliff, those do's and don'ts. Can you give us some more? My mic went out. Give us some more do's and don'ts.
As far as
Right, as far as things that the insurance, I'm sorry, not do's and don'ts, things the insurance will pay for and things they won't pay for.
okay, the life insurance will pay for your life, but there's also other provisions in the life insurance that you can have. Most people don't just die suddenly; they get sick first.
Right.
So you want to make sure you have a policy that'll cover that period when you're sick. There's also coverages in there that's called a viatical settlement. So let's say you get cancer and it's terminal. You can actually cash in your insurance policy while you're still alive to help your family out, to pay bills, loss of income. So you want to look at
Wow.
those. There's riders.
Didn't know that.
Is that specific one for like if you know you're gonna die, and then you can do it before you pass away?
Yes.
Okay,
That's called
that's the
a
one.
settlement. Yeah.
Okay.
Your doctor says basically you have a year to live.
Right.
Right.
We're going on a vacation, a cruise, or
So
something
this
like
is
that.
any policy.
You can
so
fulfill
if
that
it's,
bucket list.
Yeah.
with
Right.
Wow.
That's how they do that.
Yes.
I was wondering that.
keep
Okay.
that in mind. So
She said, "I'm gonna keep that in
keep that
mind."
in mind. If that ever happens. So if it's a life insurance policy, it doesn't have to be specified this. It doesn't have to specifically say that if I'm terminal, if I ever have a terminal illness, it's just already in the clause. Is that how
It
it works?
depends on the product. That's where your agent has to look at each product
Jeez,
that we
there's just
sell.
so many nuances to insurance.
That's why it's important to have a good insurance agent that
Yeah.
actually,
I can break
that
that down
actually
to you.
consults with you and finds out what you need to make sure that those are covered, because you can get lost in the paperwork. So you need someone that
Wow.
understands that is a professional.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't know anything about the media and how to set up a show, but if I
Yeah.
needed to, I'd come and talk to you.
Oh, yeah.
So as an insurance
Absolutely.
agent, this is what we do on a daily
Right.
basis.
Okay.
So and we consult for free. It doesn't cost you anything to come in and talk to us. We believe that if our product is good enough and it's at the right price, you have options.
Right.
And we want to make sure that our service is to the level that
Yeah.
you choose us.
Absolutely.
And we're fair, and we're definitely going to be equitable, and we care about our community.
Absolutely.
Hey, man.
Wow.
You had a question.
Sure.
Where?
This is, let's see.
Yeah, I don't see
Brittany
it.
Banks?
Yeah.
Okay. Can you touch on the benefits of family policy or policy sharing? Is there a max on how many people that can be linked to one policy? For example, auto insurance.
How many people can be on an auto insurance
Right.
policy? Anyone that lives in a household that is of legal age to drive can be added policy as far as how much the premium costs. So if you and every car is, and so if you have a young child and you have a Mercedes Benz, that's $100,000 car, they're going to rate that child on that Mercedes.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Because you're probably going to let that child
Yeah.
drive, so they will rate the child on that. So, yes.
That's pretty
That's
interesting.
really interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, but they have to live in your household. If they live in a different household, insurance is one of the few areas where companies still discriminate. They absolutely will redline neighborhoods, and it's legal because certain neighborhoods have more accidents, more crime. They can redline and actually discriminate on race.
Wow. Yeah, that's
Absolutely.
crazy.
As far as life insurance, a higher death rate, African Americans, women versus men. Women live longer than men,
Right.
so their life insurance policies are normally a little less expensive than the man.
Yeah, it's crazy that all those things are taken into consideration based on just data. You know what I'm saying? You never really think about that, but it's true, you know. And everything from the housing market to the insurance market, everything is done. Things have changed.
They're not guessing.
Right, right.
Oh, it's
you
no
know.
guesswork.
They're not
to it.
Right. I ain't gonna bring up redlining, but y'all know what I'm talking about.
Right, absolutely.
It's crazy.
What was I gonna say?
Different for you. That's the old age
Man.
over here.
I've had identical twins where we ran them through an actuary.
Yeah.
Exam was set to die 20 years before the other twin. And he was
Wow,
like,
that's
what
scary.
does that mean? You know, and what they
Wow.
looked at is his body mass index.
Oh,
His
Oh,
height to
yeah.
life difference
that's
as far as your life
eye-opener.
expectancy.
I would have went
You have
straight
to
to
get
the
on the
jail.
treadmill.
right.
Oh, man.
Right.
Straight
Here's a
to
question.
give me a membership.
Actuary
Here's a,
scientist.
here's a question for, from one of our viewers. Let's say I set up insurance through CGI. Will the policies will the
CJI.
policies,
CJI.
yeah, I said CGI.
You did not.
I said CJI.
What did he say, Ray?
CJF.
I didn't say F. I said
You can't be
CJI.
neutral on it.
Listen, hold
What
on
did he
for a
say,
second.
Cliff?
I said
Cliff,
CJI.
Did he say, Pat,
Plead the fifth.
I said
you owe me
CJ
$20.
Okay, listen. Let's
20
bet
bucks?
$50, man. I said
50,
CJI.
50 when we gonna run and take.
Okay,
Got it.
I'm gonna read this in a question. Let's say I set up insurance through CGI.
See?
CJI.
See?
He
See?
said it again.
$50. Thank you. Continue.
Shut up, man.
Confirmation.
Will the policies set up through your agency still be honored if the business closes for any reason?
Can you repeat the whole question again?
Okay. Sorry, because she's over there being light skinned. Anyway, let's say I set up insurance through CJI. Will the policies set up through your agency still be honored if the business closes for any reason?
Like the insurance company?
Yeah.
That insures it? Yes. The
Okay.
insurance policies are actually covered by state, by the
Okay.
insurance commission, so yes. And the insurance companies that we write through, I mean, and I'll say we have Nationwide, we have Travelers,
Okay.
Safeco, we write some policies through all states, so we're writing through all A+ A-rated carriers. We only have a couple carriers that are not rated A or better, and that's because we have some customers that need those type of companies that are B rated, that will take a person
Oh, okay.
that has a couple accidents, that have some blemishes on their credit,
Mhm.
and we will actually work with them. Those are called non-standard. We will,
Okay.
Wow, that's a great question, though.
yes, good question.
One thing I wanted to ask in terms of renter insurance, most apartment complexes are forcing you to get
Yeah,
renter's
they
insurance.
are.
Steve.
Unless you
Can
live in
guys go over-
Everwood or something. I mean, you'll need a renter's insurance.
No,
in Everwood.
definitely need renter's insurance in Everwood.
Nah, you'll need
Auto,
everything.
home,
You know what I
you
mean?
need everything.
Y'all should just post y'all sign up outside of Everwood or the whole east side, man. Just bring a big old sign, CJI.
That's right.
I'm from the east side, man. So look,
You can say that.
yeah, so I can make fun of where I'm from.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
We'll insure them. We'll insure them. Absolutely. We don't discriminate.
Something else.
Renter's insurance is important because because you may cause damage to someone else's unit
Yep.
and cause anything that could happen to them if they get hurt because you had a fire in your unit.
Yeah.
You're legally responsible for that too.
Mm-hmm.
And so the insurance company will cover that other person's losses. Of course, make you whole too, cover your equipment and your, not your equipment, but your furnishings and even some loss of income as well. But also it'll protect the landlord because now the landlord can get named on the policy and get his losses covered because he's probably going to have to move maybe a couple people out that were around you to a new place.
Right.
If he has to put them up until his till the units are back together.
Right.
So that insurance is actually good
Allowing
insurance.
the leverage, you know.
Absolutely.
Right. And they still hit you with that deposit if you mess up their place. They be getting back. Be getting back.
Some of the companies actually add the insurance policy into the rent amount. We have a couple that use us exclusively, and literally they will add that into the rent amount.
Man, hold on for a second. How many people have y'all known that actually got their deposit back?
It's
When?
my deposit back, man.
When? Listen,
No matter
something
how
wrong.
small,
You
no
know,
matter how small
and they
the
will still
amount
find
is.
something wrong, man.
You spend more cleaning it up. Sometimes it's best to let them have the
You gotta
deposit.
go, hey, man, keep all that, man. Listen, man,
I
my mom, bless her heart, man. When we were moving a lot to different apartments, man, like she would have, man, me and her, man, would have to clean that whole apartment, man, take 2 days. I mean, dude, oh man, like that drove me crazy. And she would still have problems getting her deposit back. I mean, they would find, you know, there was a toothpaste smell on the sink. So, you know, I'm like, man.
It stained the ceramic
Yeah.
tile.
So we had to take out the whole sink and put in a whole new one.
Because of toothpaste.
Yeah, I mean,
Hey, everybody trying to get what they can get when they can get it.
Right.
That's all that is.
Ceramic look-alike.
Policy dates. Let's talk about that. So, one, back to the renter's insurance real quick on the policy date thing, and then we can kind of leverage that for other things. Only allowed to have a policy on one place as opposed to another. So, like, say you got 2 houses or whatever. You know, can you have renter's insurance? Can you be one person and have renter's insurance on multiple places?
You can have as many as you have an equitable interest in.
if you own it.
If you own it, or
Okay.
if you're, let's say you have an apartment here and you have one in Miami or somewhere like
Right.
that where you go to.
Right.
Yes, you can insure both of those
Okay.
with different policies.
Okay. Because I remember when I was like going from one apartment to the next, but there was a gap, but I had to have insurance, and they wouldn't let me get it until the policy ended for the other one, which is, it was kind of going against what I was trying to do with the other apartment. So I guess it's really all timing. Can you explain why it's important for you to in one start one?
Yeah, well, the reason is because of who's responsible for the liability.
Okay.
So if you have multiple policies going at the same time, the insurance companies really don't like fighting each other. So if you
They'd rather not.
They'd rather not. They'd rather not if you had
Right.
2 insurance policies on the auto, only one's going to pay.
Right.
So you can't do that. You can't double insurance.
Is that a law thing, or is that just like the policy in the policy?
It's going to be in the policy,
Okay.
and it's a situation where they would consider that unethical. So like
right.
you're
You
trying to
violate policy.
You're trying to enrich yourself. So
Right.
you have 2 policies on the car, it burns out.
Glows.
I mean, that sounds like something Ebony man would do.
What? You know what? Speaking of, how many life insurances can you take out on one person? Let's just say I wanted to take out 3 on Pat, right? At about 100,000 per.
Man.
No, for how many can you take out on one person? That is, I did have that question, but
You
take
can
one out on you.
you can take out as long as you have an equitable interest in his life, which means that you
Yeah.
don't,
She
you
doesn't.
don't want him
Yeah.
to die.
Yeah.
Every Tuesday at 8 p.m.
So you
I have
want me to-
interest.
Yeah, I mean,
That's
as
a
you've
shame.
been partners, you actually could take an insurance policy
Mm.
out on him.
That's a shame.
Do I need a social? I can just
Yeah.
say Pat Williams.
You, well, yeah, you have to sign off on it.
Oh, man.
Put me down as beneficiary.
Right.
Ask the question: are you replacing this policy? Are you adding to the policy? So
Mm.
the underwriters will ask why.
Okay.
Why do you need all these policies? And that could lead to a denial if they feel like that you're just
That's a
trying to
shame.
build it
Yeah.
up to enrich yourself.
One question we haven't asked yet is how did you start and what made you start CJI?
Yeah,
absolutely.
CJI.
Oh, that's a good question.
Excellent question.
I did say CJI, but
That's
You been
okay.
saying CJF all night.
I said on CGF.
I started the insurance company. Actually, I was in real estate for 20 years, and we would actually go to an insurance agent for our